And we are live. Hi, everyone. I just want to thank everyone for taking the time out of your day to join us for this webinar all about structured data. We're going to wait just another minute or so, another couple of minutes for people to show up, and then we can get started. So if you've already joined, why don't you let us know in the chat where you're joining from so we can say hi. Oh, first webinar on YouTube, looking forward to, from Germany. Cool. Welcome from Germany. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis or St. Louis? I never know. In the UK, got people from all over. Sam from Lisbon. Hi, Sam from Lisbon. Fun fact, Sam is our head of technical SEO, and he's going to be on the chat today answering any technical questions that anybody has throughout the webinar. Hi, Anthony from London. Nigeria, hi. Wow, we are really representing the globe here. All right, cool. Well, it seems like we've got plenty of people already tuned in, so I think we should just go ahead and get started. So my name is Courtney Harrington. I'm head of marketing over at WooRank, and here with me today is Andrea Volpini. He's CEO and co-founder of WordLift. He's joining us today from Rome, Italy, and he's going to walk us through the ROI of adding structured data to your site. So this month we've been sharing a lot of guides and stats with all of you about structured data, but the inevitable question always, is it worth the effort? That's a question we at WooRank get a lot. Is this SEO stuff even worth the effort? And that's what my friend Andrea is going to teach us today. So after the presentation, he's also going to take some questions, so feel free to write in the live chat at any time and we can pull them up at the end. And then, as I said, we also have WooRank's head of technical SEO, Sam, who is going to answer any technical questions that you might have, while Andrea is busy enriching our brains. So with that said, Andrea, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Andrea Volpini. I've been working for several years in the digital marketing sector. I am a co-founder and CEO of WordLift, a company that automates structured data markup. And we are a partner of WooRank. We provide a WordPress plugin and a JavaScript library to add structured data to your site. We started in 2017 after several years in research and development. We use natural language processing and knowledge graphs to create the data that describes a website that helps Google understand the content of your pages. And we currently have 530 subscription, and among them there are small organizations as well as large organizations. So Audible in Germany, Airbnb in the States, and to what is what do we want to know about structured data when looking at the return of the investment? So structured data is a way of understanding the meaning of a page. It's a way of describing a page, or to a digital assistant. So metadata, evolution of metadata. dictionary to describe the things that we do on the web. And this dictionary, it's called schema.org. It's a linked data vocabulary that enables people to get there to describe whatever they're doing online. So if I have a website that sells books, I can tell the search engine that I'm selling books in a structured form, in a machine-friendly form. With the community behind, it's very interesting. It's led by the search engine, but it's community driven. So there's a community on GitHub. People can come up and propose different extension, because you might want to describe I don't know, your pets, or you might want to describe something that currently is not within the dictionary. So it's very interesting. We're now at version 6 of the vocabulary, and it's growing constantly under the request of the community, and then of course based on things that the search engine need to engage the user experience. So it's kind of a connecting dot between a web of data and these new AI-driven user experience that the search engine are proposing. So it's become very, very important in modern SEO. But we got to kind of make it back and start thinking not in terms of technicalities or modern SEO and semantic web.
Hey, Andrea, we are having some sound issues. If you can hear me, you're breaking up a little bit. A lot of people in the chat are having a hard time hearing you.
Oh wow, sorry about it.
That's it. No, that's okay.
Is it better?
It's better.
Okay.
Yeah, it's better now. Just maybe if there's some better internet access or service.
Yeah, I hope not.
No, now I can hear you just fine. So maybe if you could just go over that last slide for everyone, and also everyone, we will be sending out the slides as well, so that you can go over if there was any bits that were choppy that you couldn't hear.
Good. So the focus and kind of to set the tune of today's session, I just wanted to go through a little bit of a conversation with one of our clients that started with a few months back, when he said, I don't know what structured data is, but I paid your invoice, which I love it. But it's more interesting is that, of course, after 2-3 weeks, he sees, an improvement on the traffic, and he runs a local shop. So it's a local business, and it's doing science. It's in the US, and it doesn't really need to understand structured data, but it needs to see that there is something happening in terms of visitors and in terms of bottom line for its business, and that's kind of helps us set the tone of this webinar, because again, I don't want to focus on the technical aspect. I want to how we evaluate, the return of the investment when we start working on a project. And so this should give you an idea of how you can look again at your business and say, hey, I want to do this, or why I want to do this, and what is the methodology I want to follow, because we want to get to the point where it makes sense from the business point of view. So, and the reason I'm talking about it, and I'm very enthusiastic about the topic, is not just because I have a company that runs, structured data tool, but it's because I've started these a long time ago. So this is a website that we built back in 2010, 2011 for, at that time, this was our major client. So this is a utility company in Italy. So it was a big project for us. And so at that time, we went to this, big client, and we say, hey, we have a product that it's adding schema markup to improve your SEO. It was a super bold statement, but back in 2011, it was so hard to prove the return of this investment. And of course, as a large organization, the client wasn't much aware of even, what to measure. And And okay, so the audio is not good. No?
I think we're okay. We've gone a couple minutes without any choppy breakup, so I think
Okay.
we're okay for now.
Okay. Continue with that. So we started with this project, and of course, in a large organization, it was really hard to kind of present something this innovative. But of course, at the same time, it was also interesting because they wanted to experiment with something new. But this was 2011, so it's like really a lifetime ago. Right now, it's super easy to look at the business value that the structured data creates. And if you have to remember one single slide of today's presentation, well, this is the slide. Because I try to kind of wrap my head around and think about what are the different layers that we use as a team to evaluate the business impact of structured data. How do we look at the value that we create when we apply structured data and our technology to websites, and each one of these areas kind of brings an additional value. So you can kind of combine them. You can look at just one area because it fits well with the purpose of your business, or you can combine multiple areas. So it's a modular system that allows you to see if and how you can create a business impact using structured data. Okay, so we will go through in the course of this presentation throughout each one of these areas. And then of course I will be open for question and also open to think with you, how with your business, with your website, these can be, maximized and leveraged at best. So the first level, the simplest way to look at the ROI of structured data is to look at the way that results will appear on Google or on Bing. So when we talk about rich results, we talk about the way that the search engine provides the results in an enriched form, whether it's a recipe or it's a carousel for a news. Or it's an FAQ type of content. The search engine will present this result in an enriched way, and this will benefit the click-through rate, and it will potentially increase the clicks. It will also allow you to grab more pixels from the SERP. So if you have a competitors that it's right below you, if you have an enriched results, you might grab more attention and eyeballs before the competitors or even after in some cases. It is super easy to track. So when your boss asks you, why are we doing this, as soon as it asks you, you can go in the Google Search Console and with a simple filter, you can show, hey, this is the enriched results traffic that we are handling now because I have added these, right? So it's easy to track, it's easy to control, and but at the same time, it does require maintenance. You still have to, make sure that the data that you're putting there, it's validated, that it doesn't create, any troubles, and so on and so forth. So first thing first, rich results. Second point, content findability. With structured data, we can help a search engine gain confidence in providing traffic for a specific intent. So we provide enough data behind our web pages that can kind of, help the search engine understand at best what we're talking about and provide therefore more visibility. We can also use it for, controlling disambiguation issues, like, if like in my case, my name is Andrea Volpini, and there is another Andrea Volpini that it's a super famous Olympic swimmer, and it's definitely more interesting than me. But if I provide enough data about myself, Google will know that if you are in the SEO business, you probably are looking for me and not for the other guy. And I can do this by providing data in the form of structured data to search engine. So we will see example for each one of these areas. Digital branding, this is a super important aspect of SEO in 2020. Among the top priority, I would say, of your SEO strategy for the year. Adding structured data can influence the information that Google and Bing and Yandex display in their knowledge graph panel. It is also a great way to complement the information if you are a local business that you provide to the Google My Business through your website. So it's really a fantastic way to get the information from the website and merge it with the information that you have on the Google My Business. So Google will create an entity that will get the data from one side, but also enrich it from the other side, and vice versa. So, and there is yet one other very important aspect here to be noted, that Google has now kind of brought back the functionality of showing popular products on the free search. So you can use structured data not only to present your brand, but also to present your product. And that's a terrific way of, gaining visibility and improving visibility, improving the way that people perceive your brand. So you have some control over it, because of course you cannot immediately gain an entity in the knowledge graph, but structured data influence that process. You can differentiate the way that the brand looks by using structured data. And of course, if you are a local business or if you have products online, well, there is a terrific opportunity now that you can leverage on. Voice search, super hard to measure at the moment, and in a way still hard to kind of put into an ROI type of thinking. But immediately with structured data, with zero effort, you can jump on voice search, because results that Google will display for a news article or a recipe or an how-to or an FAQ will immediately be available on the Google Assistant. So this is going to be the simplest way to jump on voice search and to start looking at how this can become part of your funnel. It's still very hard to measure it. It still requires, some touches on the content, because you want to make sure that the content is speakable. But it's a great way to use structured data and to, create a momentum around the initiative on structured data. Content structuring, more strategic. It depends on the CMS that you're using, but you could start using structured data as a way of creating structured content. So what does structured content means is that you can organize the information that you have on your website in order to improve the navigation, to reuse the content that you have, from one page to another. So we will get into this. This is a little bit more, let's say, I don't want to say technical, but it's kind of, you have to know a little bit about, how the content is organized and content management. You have to get into the content management. But structured data is a way that people are using, that our clients are using in order to, rethink the way that the content model is done, right? So, and we will see examples also here. Semantic data, this is probably, where there is the biggest value, but it's also even harder for small businesses to tap into, at least at some level. But it's super valuable for the large publisher, and specifically for anyone that it's looking at artificial intelligence in the area of marketing. Because with structured data, we provide information for search engine, but we can actually use this information for our own purposes and business goals. So we will see examples of these, and as you can see, it's kind of a ladder. So you start from 1, and then you go up to 6, and there is value in each one of these areas, but not each area might apply to your business. Let's start with the simplest way. So rich results. When you see something happening like the stars for the review appearing on the SERP, or when you see the FAQ being displayed below your article, you have something that in the Google Search Console it's presented as rich results, and you can filter the traffic for rich results, and you can see how this traffic it's different from the average traffic. So in this example here, this is a travel brand in Canada. If we look at the rich results, we can see that the rankings are generally higher than the rest of the sites, and we can see that this is probably related to the fact that there is an increase of the click-through rate. So people clicked more, there is more estate on the SERP, so there are more pixels on the SERP, and people are enticed to click more, which might have an effect also on the rankings. So super easy to measure the return on the investment in this case. But let's go through the process of evaluating the ROI, because when I say super easy, what do I mean really? Because yeah, it is easy to get the number of clicks, but now what is a click in your business? So usually when we look at a project in structured data, we start from analyzing the business value. What is the business value for this particular business? Are we in the business of booking luxury villas? Are we in the business of selling products online? Are we in the software as a service business where we're selling subscription? Or are we generating lead? So what is the business value? Because a lead can be worth €2 or can be worth €200. And we have to assess the highest value, because we want to focus our effort where there is value. And then we want to analyze the conversion rate. So what is the percentage of visitors that will complete the goal, whether the goal is to buy a product or to book a villa or to start with a new service. Then we want to analyze the implementation cost. What does it take? Because it's not trivial. You have a WordPress site, you just install WordPress, you install WordLift, and you get started, and it's fairly easy to be run. But if you have a more complicated website and maybe you have multiple CMS, it might cost a lot more money to get started. So you want to analyze the implementation cost, and then you want to analyze the number of clicks and the conversion value multiplied by the business value and subtract the cost. So it's super easy formula in a way, but it helps you focus and also put the attention on where you need to create an impact, because you don't need to add structured data on the entire website, right? You want to do it on the pages where there is an actual business value, and then you want to kind of understand and estimate the cost of doing this implementation. That can be as simple as activating the subscription with a plugin like WordLift, or as complicated as involving a team of 20 engineers for developing a new template. So let's have a look at some examples. So this is like a news publisher in Europe, fairly large, as you can see by the numbers. It's a mid-size publisher. We started implementing with our own technology on a Christmas day on the 24th of December, and we could see in a fairly short term. As you can see, in less than a month or in a month, we could see that there was a significant impact. We could see that we could improve the number of clicks by 186% on Discover, and we had almost a 90% increase of clicks on AMP article. And look at here, I'm segmenting the traffic. I'm looking at areas of traffic. As a publisher, the traffic from Google Discover, it's an important source. And AMP article is another important source because it might render as a carousel. And when I have AMP, I have already, let's say, a starting point of my structured data. But by improving this structured data, we could create a lift. We created a lift, and it's a significant lift. It's a lot of clicks. Then we can just understand, okay, for this business, for this publisher, how much are these clicks worth, and then we can see, okay, the ROI is positive. So we done a great job. And as you can see, we are working on a specific content type. We're just looking at news article. We're not looking at recipe. We're not looking at how-tos. We're not looking at lodging business. We're looking at one single type where we can create the most of the impact for these specific clients. This is another case, smaller blog, photo blog, a guy I met at conference. He was sitting next by me, and then he said, "Hey, you're Andrea, you're the founder of WordLift. I'm using WordLift. Look at my data." And he was excited as you know, as I can be in showing me that he got a lot more visibility, a lot more keywords. He was, you know, getting visibility for his own small photo blog in Italy. So this is a second area, improving reach. This doesn't, you know, usually translate into clicks, but it translates into things like I have more keywords that I'm ranking for, or I am ranking for better keywords, or I am getting more impression in general. So I'm more visible on a search engine. A little harder to convert into an ROI type of thinking, but still we can do that. Let's look at this example. This is a OTA, so a travel brand, also in the business of booking. In this case, they book bungalows. We focus on one type only, lodging businesses. So the site is large. It's a search engine driven type of experience. There is a lot of properties that you can look at. We focus on specifically the landing pages, you know, the lodging businesses. And we can see here in the course, over the course of time, and you see that, you know, it's taking a year long in this case. So it's not an immediate win. It's taking a year long, because also this is a travel business. So the business is seasonal. What you do in January is not going to be comparable with what you do in May. So you have to compare year after year the performance. And here you can see that the visibility has changed. Not only there are more keywords that the business is ranking for, but we are increasing, you know, the position between 1 and 3, and we are increasing the position between 11 and 20. So in a way, what we notice here is that on the long tail keywords, by adding structured data on the lodging business, and for long tail keywords, I mean something like give me a hotel room, good for families in Trastevere, which is not Rome, but it's a neighborhood of Rome that not everyone will look for, right? So long tail in the travel business, it means that people get into the geography of places in a more direct way. And Google wasn't confident about you know, showing these pages for these long tail keywords before we started to add a lot of geographical data that kind of gave him the confidence, hey, that's exactly what the user is looking for. So we qualified not on the broader keywords like give me a hotel in Rome, not at all, but we qualified, you know, for more specific keywords where we had a lot of URLs that were sitting there that were not getting the right traffic. And guess what? When you do this, the bottom line improves, because if I am looking for a hotel in Trastevere and you're able to provide me with that specific information, I am very likely to convert, even though the volume is of course lower than looking at you know, hotels in Rome. So once again, you look at the business and you try to see, okay, how do we make money, and where do we apply the data, and what data do we have, and what users are looking for, and how the competition is also performing on these queries, because we need to find an angle. We need to find an angle. Now, there's another way of looking at increasing findability. So Google uses structured data, and we can see in this pattern from 2018 that Google expressively says that it's using structured data for creating synthetic queries. So a synthetic queries is something that a search engine will generate in order to get better result than what it could get by looking at the user query. So very simple example, CEO of WordLift, right? CEO of WordLift is the user query. And here we see that the search engine is creating a synthetic query that is combining the results from CEO of WordLift with the results from Andrea Volpini. And where does the search engine knows that Andrea Volpini is the CEO of WordLift is from structured data. Because if we provide enough data about the role of Andrea Volpini, then Google can create a synthetic query for CEO of WordLift that combines the results from CEO of WordLift and Andrea Volpini. And you can see here the example of this specific query that Google provides that most likely leverage on the information that I provide using structured data. And this kind of brings you into, the new area, the digital branding. So we say 2020 SEO strategy, focus on digital branding. What does this mean? It means that we want to kind of help the search engine create and craft a result page for a brand that we're proud of, that helps us, be more visible, engage more with the people we are looking after, create new business opportunity, and so on and so forth. So you can see here an example of, a knowledge panel that Google creates, which it's not using the data in Wikipedia, but it's using the data from my own website. So Google is confident enough that when it renders the knowledge panel about Andrea Volpini, it goes out and grabs a page from my website, which will turn into more clicks, but it also provides the user on the other side with a comprehensive understanding of what I do and what I'm good at and so on and so forth. So by using structured data, we can help the search engine create a better presentation of our brand, our company, our local business, ourselves as a person, and our products. So this is kind of even more experimental, but now you can actually go out and ask a question like, Andrea Volpini is the CEO, the founder, and then the SERP will respond with a video of me responding you to this specific question with a video. So this is an experiment I'm taking part of that is called Cameos on Google. It's at the moment kind of being tested with popular people and nerds like me, but mostly it's like popular people. But it's a way that shows you that once you have created the data that Google requires for becoming an entity within its knowledge graph, then there are additional services that will allow you to gain more visibility for your brand, for your business, for your products. So this is kind of an edge case, but it's interesting because it starts with having an entity in the knowledge graph. And then you can interact with me through Google. So Google becomes my new business cards. Now, does this mean that schema is a ranking factor? Because that's something that I could tell my boss and say, hey, this thing is a ranking factor. It's like speed. Speed is a ranking factor. So if I invest on improving the speed of my website, I will gain more traffic, whatever that costs. Schema is not a ranking factor, and this is important to be said because we have to make clear that here we are working on different levels of value creation, but we are not working for improving the ranking. But as you can see here in this chart, I'm able to show to the client that as soon as we start improving the data, so this client has already structured data in place, but the data is missing, it's broken, it's not consistent, and we start by improving the data. And as soon as we start by improving this data and we provide additional feature for these rich results, the click-through rate increases, and we can see that the position stabilized. And this has a lot of value for business like this, because I'm not working on one page, I'm working on thousands and thousands of pages. And if I'm able to stabilize the position, we are talking about big money, right? So it is not a ranking factor, but it does impact on rankings. Indirectly, you can impact on the rankings by creating an improved visibility and enticing the users to make an extra click. Does it work for all queries? Not at all. If the competitors are already kind of getting that spot, you might not get the effect of improving the click-through rate, and all the effort could be a waste of time. Voice search. You can now immediately get on the Google Assistant by using something like the how-to, right? So you use the how-to markup to, for instance, ask something like, can I pair my phone with my car? And if you have created this content on your site and you are using structured data, you can immediately get visibility on the Google Assistant, right? Assuming that, of course, you are the number one in providing these results, right? So you still have to, focus on the rankings. But you can build action for the Google Assistant from news article, from recipes, and from how-tos. Super easy, cost zero, but you have to rank number one, because otherwise, you're not going to be the first one to get that result. And you have no means of measuring. It's very hard to measure, how much traffic you're creating with these. There's another way that you can tap into voice responses using structured data. There is a specific schema that is called Speakable that allows you, if you are a publisher writing in English with content that is available in the United States, and if you've gone through the process of submission and approval from Google, you can provide Google with the exact text that you want the Google Assistant to read when displaying something about your site. It's an edge case. It seems like an edge case, but if you're a large publisher and you're listening to this webinar, well, this is a super interesting thing because it allows you to control the experience of a user that it's accessing to your brand using the Google Assistant. And by the way, when you get a user from the Google Assistant, it is true that you cannot measure the user on the Google Assistant unless you create your own app on the Google Action. But you can see traffic coming in, as long as the user is using a device with a display. Because I would click on measure from the Google Analytics. Still, it's an edge case. If you are investing on structured data for getting on voice, it's a good thing to do. But if your boss asks you, prove me that there is a positive ROI, well, it's not going to be that easy. Let me tell you, because making action discoverable, it's still a tricky business, and it's not a tricky business for you as a publisher, as a website owner, as a business owner. It's also tough for platforms like Google and Alexa. So there is a lot of investments that needs to be done in order to make sure that once you have made this recipe available on the Google Assistant using structured data, you have your user actually kind of using this recipe from a voice assisted device. And this is a super important aspect. So this guy here, Scott Hoffman, is a VP of voice in Google. And he's telling us that discoverability is not a solved problem, and we need to invest. So if we think about the ROI here, yes, okay, I can create very easily a voice driven experience just by adding structured data for these three types. But then I have to think, okay, most of my budget is probably going to be spent on kind of promoting these intents to the voice platforms, because otherwise it's going to be very hard for a user to find me, unless, of course, I'm ranking number one for that specific intent. But I mean, there's not a list of results in most of the cases. The voice response is going to take the first one, unless you are investing on something that will instruct your user. So imagine an advertising, a billboard where you say, okay, ask word left, what is structured data? And, something like that with a brand and keywords will create, a very interesting and engaging voice-driven experience, but, you're putting money for letting people understand that they have to pronounce that intent. So voice search ROI, very easy to get started, very hard to measure it, very hard to get your application discovered. So where do we get with all of these? Where do I want to get with all of these? This is John Mueller, Google webmaster, mentor, and key figure in helping webmaster understand how Google works. He tells us very clearly, if you have a limited amount of time, and who doesn't have a limited amount of time these days, you have to take the pages that are worth the most. You have to focus on what is providing a value for you and leave the rest, because you gotta focus on content that really can make a difference. I have this one page where we get a lot of large client, and this page can generate something like 20,000-30,000 euro in a few months. So I'm gonna focus on this page. That's what I'm gonna do. I have all the templates about my villas. That is where the transaction happens. I'm gonna focus there. I want to super optimize that. I want to make sure that I get better of the competitors. Content structuring. If you are in the content strategy, content management system, you understand a lot about it. I think that it can be synthesized by this phrase by Jennifer Schmidt from Intuit, that said schema is a multitasker. So in Intuit, they are using schema markup not only for letting search engine understand what their pages are about, but to reuse the content. So imagine that you have an article, and in this case, I'm going to guide you through an examples of one of our clients that runs a private jet service. So on their website, they advertise private jets for wealthy people. So you have an article, and within this article, you are talking about maybe an event happening in Austin, in Texas, and so the event, it's a piece of content that it's mentioned within the article, but it's a content on its own. Maybe it's a page, maybe it doesn't have a page, but you can actually kind of structure the article by combining pieces that talk about the airport in Austin, that talk about Austin as a city, and that talk about the event that people might go to using a private jet. So you can see that an article is not a monolithic block, but it becomes kind of a combination of different elements. And this allows you to reuse the same content for people that are interested, for instance, not in that specific article, but in the event only. Or in the airport only. So you can kind of create multiple entry points by using the same content. So you have, in this example, you have something like South by Southwest for people that want to get there with a private charter, and that's an event. So it's a page, and you can create this page, and you can get queries around this page. But at the same time, you are putting this in relationship with the airport in Austin, where you can fly with your private jets, and then you can put it into relationship with a page that you might have already on the site that talks about the nice things that you can do in Austin, and then you can also combine it with the reason why you should fly with us. As you can see, I'm using schema to organize the content around my website, and these provides multiple entry points for my users. So I'm kind of, reconstructing the content and putting pieces together, and I am grabbing more visibility because each one could be a page and could be an element that combines, create, an engaging user experience. So this is what I usually call the entity-based content model, and it's where I usually start with organization. So we look at the site, we look at the type of content, we look at the content models, we look at the way that the site is structured, we look at the business value, and then I start with these. I start by looking at the pillar content and the type of experience that we can create with this content on Google Search. when we do this, we create multiple pages, or we might create multiple pages, because I can create a page for the airport in Austin, and I can create a page for Austin as a city, and I can create a page for South by Southwest as an event. I don't need to, but I can, because I'm structuring content around entities and classes. So this is an example of a site that has been using our tool for quite some time with a great results. For many years, he's been using our tool, but he didn't feel confident that Google should index also the structured data. So he was only using our tool for improving the structured data of articles, but he wasn't using all the pages that our tool creates for creating the context around. The user were able to see these pages, so we could see the benefit of using the tool, because the navigation was, richer. People were spending more time on the site. Generally, Google was sending more traffic, but it wasn't indexing these pages. All of a sudden, for God knows what reason, but he decided to remove on January the 10th this year, to remove the non-index from all the entity pages that our plugin creates, and something magic happened. And it really completely changed his business model, because he now has a lot more traffic that it's coming from all these kind of different entry point that now he of course needs to curate, improve, understand if it converts or not. And so it's a new line of activities really, but it's fantastic. I mean, it gives you an idea of how much you can gain by reorganizing the content that you already have. This is the last part of the value chain. So here I'm going into Google Analytics for our own website, and I'm asking, give me the trends for all the content related to semantic SEO. So here I'm using structured data to tell to Google Analytics that I want to cluster all the articles related to a topic, because I want to analyze the trend for this topic and not for a single page. And I can talk with Google Analytics, and I can say, hey, give me the trends for everything that has to do with semantic SEO. And you can imagine that there's a lot of value if you are a publisher in doing something like this interactively, because you can immediately instruct the editorial team to say, hey, we are losing traction on semantic SEO, or we are losing traction on the Avast News, and let's write another one. But also you can use the same data to sell advertising, much like Facebook does with most of us. So you can say, hey, get advertising on everything on my site that talks about semantic SEO and artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of value that you can create if you have a large property by using structured data for organizing and tagging the content. And this is one example of the value of semantic data. This is another example, also for a publisher. In this case, it's a tech publisher in UK. Most of the traffic is actually coming from the US, but this is a case where we are using structured data for creating content recommendation on the site. So for suggesting to user similar content to be read. So this is a widget that Worldly provides that uses the structured data on the page to look at similar articles that have been written on that same site. And you can see that just by adding these simple widgets, we are able to improve the number of page views on a daily basis. So what is the ROI here? I am looking at the total number of page views that I'm creating by adding better content recommendation that are driven by the annotation that I have on my articles, and I'm multiplying these by the cost of 1,000 of impression, and then of course I multiply it by 30 because I want to see the monthly income, the average monthly income. And I can see that just the single component that creates recommendation using the structured data that I have on the page is generating $600 of monthly income on this section of the website, which might be enough to justify part of the investment that they have to make in these technologies. So once again, specific use case, it's a tech publisher, it's using structured data, but it's not using structured data only for search. It's not using structured data only for getting rich results. is using structured data for his own content recommendation system that is driving more page views to its sites that is able to monetize. So we saw a lot of good examples, but life, it's not easy. It's not a bed of roses, as people used to say. A lot of bad things and pitfalls happen during the course of this type of implementation. We went through implementation for a small website, photo blog, local business, but also super large OTA, publisher. So there's a lot of different cases and different ways. But these are the most common errors that you can encounter that can negatively impact on the return of the investment. Data can be disconnected, missing, incomplete. We see a lot of these happens. Google validation might fails because also, validation, it depends on something that's evolving. As we said, we have now version 6 of the schema org markup. So, and now every month there is a new version of the vocabulary. So there are new properties, new attributes, and each search engine is providing the guides on how part of these information can be used on a web page. So you not only need to look at what's available in the schema vocabulary, but you also have to look at the specific implementation that each search engine is expecting for that specific type. So you might fail, you might get error, you might get everything fine one day, and then all of a sudden you get errors for God knows what reasons. You might have multiple syntax on the same page because you have built the website with a with a CMS that already has some level of structured data, and then you have added a new component for having that specific feature, and then all of these kind of comes down to a big mess and different syntaxes, different formats that are providing contradicting statements. We see also a lot of these happening. Most of the structured data out there is still in the form of microdata, so it's kind of encapsulated into the HTML. It can kind of also makes the page slower. So you have that. Maybe then you have added the JSON LD, and maybe the two things are not talking one to another. There are ways of mixing things together, but it's not easy. Google changes the rules. We've seen these happening just a couple of weeks ago with the duplication of the feature snippet. So you have used structured data because you wanted to provide confidence and get a feature snippet. You got the feature snippet. You used to have like 2 URLs on that SERP, and now you only got one because Google changed the rules. Or you got all these nice stars. You invested for getting all these reviews, but hey, it's a self-hosted reviews, and Google decided that self-hosted reviews, so review to talk about yourself, are not worth being featured as a rich results. So you lost all of the work that you've done. Even worse, you start using structured data to gain this feature, but you're doing it in a kind of abusing way, and maybe you add a statement in structured data, but there's no corresponding text for the user to read. And Google finds out about it, and then you get a manual penalty, and then the trouble begins. Or last but not least, your competitors have better data, so they are appearing with their super fancy, rich results for software app, and there's no way for you to do it because you don't have the information about the operating system. So you gotta work hard, make sure that your data is better than the competitors, because at the end of the day, it's a data game. So we can start with the Q&A. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and then we can close the webinar with a quick wrap up.
Yeah, so we had a lot of questions come in during your presentation, which was very informative as always. So we'll just kick it off with Greg has a question for you. Is structured data just for content, or can he also use it for e-commerce?
Yeah, structured data is actually for both content and e-commerce. And Greg, there is a terrific change that has recently been announced by Google that popular products are being shown again across Google surfaces, not only for paid ads. So this means that, and there are two ways for getting this visibility for your e-commerce website and products. You can either use the Google Merchant or you use structured data. So absolutely, it's a terrific time to invest in structured data for e-commerce website because Google has reopened, free visibility for popular products on Google search.
Okay, great. And the next one, Kaiser Solutions Consulting wanted to know if this is only relevant for Google, or does he also have to submit different for Bing and other engines?
So it is not only relevant for Google, it is relevant for Google, it is relevant for Bing, it is relevant for Yandex, it is relevant for Yahoo, if someone is still using Yahoo independently. Most of our work is focused on Google and Bing. They too provide specific guides on the implementation, so you might find that some property are supported by Bing and are not supported by Google, and vice versa. Fact checking, it's one that just pops to my mind. Currently supported by Google with the rich results, but it's not supported by Bing. Both of them as have a way of validating the structured data. So you can use the Bing Webmaster tool to validate the JSON-LD, and then you can use the Google structured data testing tools to validate your structured data for Google. So there is a lot of opportunity. Yandex has a terrific implementation. They called it Yandex Island. That's the way that they call their rich results. So if you are into the Russian market, definitely structured data is a good opportunity.
Okay, next one I think is one that we can probably all relate to. My boss won't invest in this, and it sounds hard, LOL. So how do I do this on the cheap?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds hard. I didn't want to make it sound hard, but I want to be, realistic enough. It can be as easy as, adding a script on a page, but as complex as, kind of maintaining the data and improving and finding the right angle. You can start with as simple as, activating WooRank and WooRank together, and we can take it from there because that's what we do. And the reason that tools like ours exist is that we don't think that people should kind of spend their precious time, at looking at the way that Google changes specification or the way that the structured data should be added on the page, because we can do it, with a cost-effective way. So simple answer: get the promo, get started,
Yeah.
and let's get with the results.
Easier said than done sometimes, but just show them this presentation and maybe they'll be convinced. We have a couple of questions from Dwayne in the chat. When referencing a property in a data set like Wikipedia or DBpedia, how important is specificity? And is it possible to use too much structured data on a single page?
So these are two questions, basically. So providing links to external sources, it is super important. It is what actually creates the value. So you have to be as specific as possible, and you have to understand and think like a machine would think. So there is a lot of ambiguity in language in general, and I think that one of the example that the knowledge graph team in Microsoft makes is that there are at least 200 entities for Will Smith in Wikipedia. So it is extremely important that you are very specific when referencing entities, because you're gonna provide help or just create noise. And if you want to provide help, you want to be specific. And being specific is as simple as interlinking your data with other data sets such as DBpedia and Wikidata. And once again, WordLift does this automatically and will provide suggestion on what we think it might be the equivalent entity that you're mentioning in the text. So that's the first answer that I have. So be specific as possible. It is called data quality, and the more quality you put into this data, the more opportunity and chances you have that a search engine will use it for providing relevant answers to its user. Is there too much structured data? Can I put too much structured data? Well, I think that the problem is not the quantity. The problem is that when you start adding too much, well, there are two things, okay? First, if you start adding too much structured data using microdata, you are going to increase the payload of the HTML page. And that's going to be bad in general for the user experience. So users will spend more time in rendering your page because everything is going to be encapsulated into HTML. So, but assuming that you're doing everything by the book and you're not using microdata, you are using JSON LD. So, the load is asynchronous and it's not, impacting on the page load of the HTML. Still, if you're adding too much data, you might get into the situation of creating, conflicts or, cases of data that is inconsistent. On one side, you say that I am the CEO of WorldLift, but then on another page, you see that I'm an Olympic swimmer. So there's not really a limit on the quantity of data as long as the data is well curated. And curating data, by the way, it will cost you time over time. It's not just the investment that you make when you implement it on the first time, but the fact that then you have to monitor more statements and you have to make sure that everything keeps working as data evolves.
Okay, that's good. We have some more questions that are pretty technical from Dwayne. I'm going to jump to another one, and then we can jump back to Dwayne. So, question, I have a massive site having 60,000 plus pages. What tool do you suggest I use for managing?
I'm a little bit biased.
I was going to say, you'll probably say WordLift.
So we have created this JavaScript library that it's called WordLift Cloud that we use on massive websites. And the reason we have created is that on large properties, it's also very hard to make changes because sometimes to make a change on a large website, you have to involve, maybe 20 engineers, and it's really not going to be cost effective. So what we do is that we inject a JavaScript, and then we take it from there, and we are capable with this single line to kind of let you experiment with different configuration of the structured data. And we think that this is the best way for large property to start getting involved. Then if we see that things are working, then you might decide that you might want to make some changes in a persistent way and kind of embed it into the theme, or depending on the architecture. But we think that the easiest way to start with these large properties to kind of inject something like WordLift Cloud that is a JavaScript, and it will automate and scale the structured data on your site.
Great. Okay, let's take one last question and then move into the wrap up so we can get to what everyone's waiting for, the special offer. So how do semantic annotations work with structured data, or don't they? And same with authoritative metadata, is there a way to mark that up?
So semantic annotation is basically what we started from, and I didn't put the slide on the ROI of semantic annotation because I thought it was a little bit too niche as a case. But since you're asking, we had I can share some interesting figures about editorial content that was marked up with schema article, where we then added semantic annotation. So you can add semantic annotation. We have a specific syntax for doing that in the schema.org vocabulary that I invite you to have a look at by looking at websites like the Next Web or our blog or other site I use WordLift. So there is a way of kind of embedding the semantic annotation. This is actually what makes our product special in a way. There's a lot of value in annotating semantically your content, and you can do this with structured data. It will complement the kind of baseline structured data that Google requires for AMP and for schema article in general. Will these benefit the authority of the site? Very hard to say. So I wouldn't say anything about it.
Okay, well, there are some more questions, but we do need to start wrapping it up. So, guys, we'll put some answers in what do you think, Andre, in the comments of the video for the ones that didn't get answered?
We can do another small session, I think, at the end after the closure. I mean, we just have to wrap up, and then if you want, we can
Sure,
take
yeah.
another.
If you want to stick around, then we can answer
Yep,
some of the questions that
totally,
didn't get
totally,
answered.
totally.
All right, take it away.
So let's wrap it up. So it's a process, it's a workflow that we want to get into in order to get a positive ROI from this type of investment. And we want to start this by looking at the business value. So where is the value for the business in doing something, in SEO in general, but with structured data in particular? We have to have a clear objective from the beginning. It can be, to rank our products for a specific set of keywords. It can be to make sure that our kind of long tail pages are seen in a more effective way. It can be to, whatever, but you have to have a business value to start with. Then you want to look at the areas that, the 6 areas that we identify, the rich results, the content findabilities, and you want to see what you're going to play with at first. And my suggestion here is to start with something as simple as rich results, if you're not doing that already, because that's going to be tangible, easy to measure, and you can calculate the ROI by just knowing the conversion rate that you have on these pages. You want to analyze the competition, because not all queries are created equal, and not all the user intents are the same. And you have to see if there is enough volume in these queries, if these queries are interesting enough, if there is a good click-through rate or not on your site, if there are competitors that are doing already a better job. I mean, you have to focus and look at the competition. So you have understand the business objective, you have defined the area in which you want to create your value. Then you start by analyzing the competitors, and then you start implementing the markup. Do it with us, do it alone, do it, with whatever tools you have out there, but start implementing, and always follow the guidelines from provided by the search engine. Whether you're targeting Bing or Google or Yandex, make sure that you follow the guidelines and you validate the structured data. So you start validating, and then you start measuring the impact, and then you start maintaining this infrastructure in place, because you want to make sure that the data remain consistent as rules might change, as data might change, and then you kind of move into another area. So you have done the best with rich results, and now you want to see, hey, can I maybe build a new fancy content recommendation system with these things? Or can I reuse the content here, because maybe I can create more pages with the content that I have now invested on structuring with the markup. So kind of start with each one of the areas and then move to the next. Remember that semantic open data, structured data is a form of open data, and it's an essential building block of modern SEO. And remember that, whatever data you're putting out, it's, you have to take it as seriously as open source. You have to focus on what's going to make the difference. What is the quality of the data? How are you going to be more relevant than your competitors? And remember that for Google, whatever you're putting into the structured data is considered the open data that they will use for creating the engaging experience. So when you're doing structured data, you are opting in for rich snippets and different ways in which the search engine can provide a presentation of your results. So this is kind of a debate that I had with Sullivan and John Mueller as soon as the EU passed a reform on online copywriting law. But what is important here is that we could see that structured data is whatever Google can use for enriching your results. So make sure that you get the right stuff out, make sure that it's relevant, it's consistent, it's high quality, and it's maintained. So 6 areas: rich results, findability, digital branding, voice search, content structure, semantic data. These are the areas that you can tap into for creating a positive business impact. You want to focus only on the content that generate high value. As you understand, it's not an easy, I do these and then let's leave it there and then, I've done something. No, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some energy. So you have to focus on the content that create the good value. You want to keep the control of the cost, so you don't want to do it like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just inject the script, and then you're gonna spend a lot of hours in fixing errors and validating things, and do it professionally. So do it in the best way. Remember that it's not a ranking factor. So if you have a poor SEO, you don't want to move up into something as specific as structured data, because I mean, if your page is rendering in let's say 9 seconds, I mean, structured data is not going to make a big difference, right? So you want to start with the things that you need to do, and that's why you can use WooRank. You can audit your site. You can see whatever if the baseline has been covered, then you can see, okay, hey, I'm gonna create additional value here, and we are in this game. We are in the game of creating the additional value. Having structured data in place can help you get into voice search, but most importantly, structured data is data that you can use for creating a better business, for creating a better recommendation system, for creating a better reporting, for selling advertising at a faster pace. So structured data is not only for search engine. Structured data is for you to create a better service. That's it. That's a promo. Write to rank and get discount version of WordLift and WooRank.
Yeah, that's just to say special thank you to everyone who watched and also who engaged with us in the chat, even just by watching. We want to give you the special offer that by signing up to WooRank, we will offer you a free WordLift subscription. To claim the offer, just email support@woorank.com. This is going to be for a limited time. We'll also email this out to everybody who pre-registered for the webinar. So again, just support@woorank.com. Also wanted to just quickly apologize for the audio issues in the beginning, but that's showbiz, baby. So we will also be sending out these slides with the special offer, and you can always watch it again here on YouTube. Just fast forward through the choppy parts. We have a few more questions, I think, that are still in the chat. So if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and throw them up there. Okay, so Jason would like to know if it's better to build a page around specific keywords designed to be the most relevant for the structured data, to be the most relevant voice result for the keyword. Does that make sense? I can read it again.
Yeah, I mean, so this is kind of a keyword versus entity type of dilemma. So the way that I see it is that you want to look at intents instead, because an intent might cover multiple keywords or queries, and then you can use structured data for kind of bolstering or improving this specific page that you have created for that specific intent. So you want to start from the user intent first, and then you want to craft the content around the user intent, and you want to do that by adding the structured data that helps that specific intent to be covered and possibly enriched with the rich visualization, with the rich result.
Okay, our buddy with 60,000 plus pages also wants to know, if they deactivate or stop WordLift services, will the schema be deleted or stay on the pages?
Good question. So if you're running the plugin on WordPress, we will keep the schema, of course, even when you deactivate the subscription, because that's your data. In any case, it's your data. So in any case, you will get access to your data. But if you're running WordPress, you deactivate the subscription, the data is yours. As long as you keep the plugin running with no cost, we'll keep the data there. With the JavaScript version, it's kind of different because we have to serve the data from our own cloud infrastructure. So when you deactivate WordLift, then the data will go away unless you replicate the same data that you have experimented with WordLift within your templates.
Okay, another WordLift specific question. So will WordLift work with sites using a WP page builder like Thrive?
Generally speaking, no. But with a combination with the plugin, and the JavaScript library, yes. So when you use a builder, we currently only support Gutenberg as visual builder because that's the WordPress native visual builder. We work quite well with Elementor, and we also do work with Divi. But we can really work with any visual builder as long as besides the plugin, you also use the cloud, which is the JavaScript, because this will render the markup on top of the HTML that the builder creates. It's kind of complicated, but to be able to integrate with all the visual builder out there. But we have found that this solution works for these cases.
Okay, I think that will probably be all of the questions. I'm really sorry if we didn't get to your question or if it just got lost in the chat. You can always find Andrea on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can ask me, and then I'll ask Andrea and pretend that it was me that knew it the whole time. So thank you again, everybody, for attending. And yeah, if you have any questions for us, support@WooRank. And again, we will send these out probably tomorrow to everybody who has registered along with the special offer. So thanks again, Andrea, for being with us.
Bye-bye. Thanks for following.
Bye,
Ciao.
everyone.